The desert sun burned hot over the planet Zarnak 7. The sand was red, the wind dry, and nothing moved without reason. This was not a place where humans were welcome. But Jace Renar, a human officer from Earth's Peace Division, had come anyway. His orders were simple: meet with the alien warriors of Zarnak, offer peace, and avoid war at all costs. What the orders didn't mention was her. She stood tall in the great hall of bone and stone. Her skin was blue-gray, marked with black warrior lines. Her armor was made of beast hide and metal. Her eyes were sharp, deadly. Her name was Vialra, and beside her, like a living shadow, stood a creature bigger than any human had ever seen. The alien beast was called Korin. It stood on 4 thick legs, with a long tail and glowing orange eyes. Its black scales shimmered like armor. Sharp tusks curved from each side of its mouth. It didn't blink. It didn't breathe like a normal animal. It just stared at Jace. "Are you the human they sent to speak?" Valra asked, her voice like cold fire. Jace stepped forward, keeping his tone calm. "Yes, I come to offer peace between our worlds." Valra raised one brow. "You come with no weapon?" "I came with words," she smirked. "Words are soft. My people respect strength." Jace looked around the room. Dozens of Zarnak warriors stared at him. None of them smiled. All of them waited for him to fail. "I don't need to threaten anyone," he said. "I'm here to understand you." A murmur ran through the room. Vialra's eyes narrowed. "Understand?" she said slowly. "You think we are animals to study? I think you are people, strong people, but war is not the only path. That's when it happened." Valra stepped forward. So did Korin. The beast let out a deep growl that made the stone walls shake. Valra's face hardened. She pointed at Jace and said in a voice that echoed through the chamber, "Say one more word, human, and my beast will tear you apart." The room went silent. Not a foot moved, not a breath was taken. And then Jace did something that no one expected. He looked straight into the eyes of the beast and said calmly, "Then let him try." Korin let out a roar. The ground trembled. The warriors reached for their blades. But Vialra raised her hand, sharp and fast. The beast froze. Its claws dug into the ground, but it didn't strike. Jace stood still, not because he wasn't scared, but because he had already seen war. And he knew fear was not the same as strength. Valra stared at him. Her eyes didn't blink. Finally, she turned her head slightly and said, "You are either very brave or very foolish." Jace exhaled. "Maybe both." A few warriors chuckled. Just barely. Valra stepped back. So did Korin. The beast's eyes still locked on Jace. "You come here alone. You speak of peace. You do not run when death looks you in the eye." She studied him for a long moment. "You are strange, but not weak." "I don't need to fight to prove myself," Jace said. She nodded slowly. "Good. Then let us test something else." The room grew quiet again. Valra raised her voice. "This human will enter the wildlands. For 3 days he will survive alone." Murmurs broke out again. Some laughed, some gasped. She lifted her hand. "Not alone, I mean. He will go with Korin." Jace frowned. "Your beast?" "My guardian, my brother, my blade in the dark." Her voice was firm. "If you live, we will talk. If you die, the desert has judged you. And if Korin kills me?" She gave a cold smile. "Then your words meant nothing." That night, Jace sat alone in a tent outside the hall. He packed a small bag, checked his comm device, and waited. Footsteps approached. Korin stood at the entrance, breathing like a slow-moving engine. Behind him, Valra watched. "Your test begins at dawn," she said. "If he leaves you, follow. If he attacks, run fast." Jace nodded. "Understood." She paused, then added almost softly, "He has never walked beside anyone but me." Jace looked at the beast. Maybe he's ready to try. In the cold night wind, the human and the beast stood facing each other. No chains, no commands, only choice. The first light of dawn touched the desert sky. Red sun, dry wind, no mercy. Jace stood at the edge of the stone camp, a small pack on his shoulder, his boots sinking in the sand. His skin was already hot and the day hadn't even begun. Beside him stood the massive beast Corin. 4 legs, black scales, orange eyes that didn't blink, silent except for the slow sound of his breath. No leash, no guide, just Jace and the beast. Belra stood on the high ledge of the camp wall, arms crossed, watching them both. "If he lives 3 days," she said, "we speak again. And if he dies?" A warrior asked beside her. Belra didn't answer. She didn't need to. Jace took the first step. Corin didn't move. Another step. Then the beast followed. Not behind. Not ahead. Beside. By noon, the heat was sharp like blades. Jace's lips were dry. His breath grew short. But still, he walked. Corin walked too, silent and steady, never falling behind. At one point, Jace stopped to drink water from a small bottle. Corin sat across from him. He didn't beg, didn't growl, just stared. Jace looked at him. "You don't trust me yet, huh?" Corin blinked once. Jace placed the water bottle on the sand halfway between them. "If we're going to survive this, we share." Corin sniffed the bottle, then nudged it toward Jace. By evening, they found a small rock formation for shelter. Jace sat, with his back against a stone wall, body aching. Corin sat in the shadows, watching the sky. When night came, the desert turned cold. Sharp wind. Silent stars. And in the distance, howls. Alien jackals. Jace heard them grow closer. He grabbed a stick from the fire he'd built. But the howls didn't come near, because Corin stood between him and the dark. The beast didn't roar. He didn't attack. He simply waited. "Ready?" Jace whispered. "You could have left me here. But you didn't." Corin didn't move. Jace leaned back, slowly feeling sleep pull him down. "I think you're more than just a weapon." The next morning, Jace awoke to strange tracks near the camp. Deep claw marks, not Corin's. He stood quickly. "Corin?" The beast returned moments later, with a dead sand lizard in his mouth. He dropped it at Jace's feet, then sat down. Jace blinked. "Is this a gift?" Corin gave a low grunt. Jace nodded. "Okay, let's call that breakfast." That day they traveled farther, up stone ridges, through narrow passes. At one point, a nest of horned scorpions blocked their way. Jace grabbed a rock to fight, but Corin stepped forward and roared, loud and long. The scorpions scattered. Jace laughed. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." By the end of the second day, the bond had grown. Corin no longer followed Jace. He walked with him, not as a guard, not as a tool, but as something more. That night, as the stars glowed above, Jace built a small fire. He looked at the beast beside him. "You could have killed me 100 times. Corin said nothing. "You didn't." Still no sound. But the question is, why? Back at the camp, Vylra watched through a small screen, footage from a hidden scout drone. She had seen everything. Jace offering water, Corin protecting, the camp, the laughter, the silence. One of the older warriors stood beside her. "He has not run. He has not screamed," said another. "He feeds the beast," said a third. Vylra's voice was low. "No. He honors it." She turned off the screen. "He's not taming the beast," she whispered. "He's earning it." On the third morning, Jace and Corin reached the marked return point, a tall pillar of white rock carved with ancient symbols. As they approached, the sun rose behind them. Waiting on the other side stood Vylra and 20 silent warriors. Corin let out a short breath, then stopped beside Jace. Jace raised one hand. We made it. Valeria stared at him for a long moment, then at Corin. She stepped forward, eyes unreadable. You survived. Jace nodded. And the beast? Jace turned to the creature. He chose to stay. Valeria stepped closer. She knelt and looked into Corin's eyes. The beast didn't growl, didn't move, but it gave a slow, soft grunt. Valeria stood again and said only one word. Interesting. The desert was behind them now. Jace and Corin had returned, but something was different. Not in the way they walked, but in the way others watched them. Inside the warrior stronghold, eyes followed them. Guards who once gripped their spears now stood still. Servants who once turned away now whispered, "That's the human." And the beast walked beside him. No chains, no command. He must be mad. Or chosen. Jace didn't care what they said. He had seen. Enough. Corin was not just a beast. He was something more. He had protected Jace, shared food, blocked danger, watched the stars beside him. No words. No voice. But more loyal than most men Jace had known in war. Valeria summoned Jace the next morning. The warrior hall was silent when he entered. She sat on her throne, high above the stone floor. Corin stood, behind Jace, calm, still, waiting. Valeria's voice echoed. You lasted 3 days in the wild. You fed with the beast, slept under his watch. Did he bite you? No. Did he test you? Yes. And? Jace smiled slightly. He let me stay. She stood, walked down the steps, face to face with the human. You have done something no outsider ever has. She looked at Corin. He was made for war, raised to kill. But he followed you. Jace stayed quiet. He could be used, she added. Trained, pointed like a weapon. Jace's voice was firm. He's not a tool. A murmur went through the court. A human. Defending. The beast? Valeria stared into his eyes. You speak of him like a brother. Jace nodded. Because that's what he's become. That night Valeria sat in her chambers watching old recordings. Corin as a cub. Fierce. Wild. Uncontrollable. Even she had scars from raising him. He had listened to no one. Trusted no one. Until now. She whispered to herself, why you? The next morning, Jace found Corin standing in the training field, alone. The area was marked with scorched lines and broken sand tiles. Jace stepped forward. Want to show me how you train? Corin didn't move, but he walked to the center and waited. Jace found a staff and stepped forward. He didn't attack, he just held it. Corin growled softly, then charged. Jace rolled to the side. The beast spun, claws just missing the edge of his coat. Jace raised the staff. Okay, guess you're serious. They moved in a dance, speed, power, control. Jace was fast for a human, but Corin was faster. But still, he never struck. Each move stopped just before contact, as if testing Jace, watching how he reacted. Learning his steps. An hour passed, both stood still, breathing hard. Jace lowered the staff. You're holding back, he said. Corin gave a low grunt. Jace chuckled. Thanks, I think. Later in the garden behind the hall, Zarnak children gathered to watch them walk. They didn't run. They didn't scream. One small child walked forward, holding a fruit. He held it up to Corin's mouth. The beast lowered his head and gently took the fruit from the child's hand. No growl, no teeth, just silence. The child giggled. He's not scary. Another child added, he's soft. Jace laughed. Let's not tell him that. Velra watched from a balcony above, eyes wide, mouth still. Her beast, who once killed 3 trained warriors, just accepted food from a child. She said nothing, but something inside her cracked. That night, Jace and Corin sat near the outer wall. Watching the desert stars, Jace looked at the beast. You were never a monster, were you? Corin didn't answer. but he rested his heavy head beside Jace like a brother would. In the darkness, they sat side by side, a human, a creature once feared. No words, just trust. And far away, in the deepest shadows of the warrior court, a secret plan was beginning, one that would test their bond, one that would try to tear it apart. Peace had begun to bloom on Zarnak 7, but not everyone welcomed it. In the quiet corners of the fortress, away from Vaelra's throne, dark voices whispered. Not all warriors believed in change, not all trusted the human, and none trusted the beast that had once been uncontrollable. Now sitting beside children like a pet. His name was General Kars, a veteran of 10 wars, his skin marked with more scars than armor. He had watched the human walk freely. He had seen Corin bow his head to kindness, and he hated every moment of, and this beast was bred to fight, Kars growled in a private chamber. And now he follows a soft-tongued outsider? A younger soldier nodded nervously. Vaelra listens to the human, sir. Many do now. She forgets who we are? Kars snapped. We are not diplomats, we are fire. If we lose the beast and we lose our fear. Later that night, Kars slipped through the halls with silent steps. He carried a small vial of liquid, thick, glowing green. Poison. He moved toward the outer quarters where Jace slept, and where Corin rested just outside the door. But as he reached for the handle, a deep growl filled the corridor. Corin stood in the shadows, awake, watching. Kars froze. The beast didn't attack, but didn't move either. It knew. Kars backed away slowly, then vanished into the dark. The next morning, Jace found strange marks on the door. Scratches, as if claws had almost struck wood, but didn't. He turned to Corin. You stopped something. Last night, didn't you? The beast blinked once. Jace's hand rested on its shoulder. Thank you. Meanwhile, Vaelra met with her council. The air was tense. Reports were spreading. Some warriors had started sharpening weapons again. Patrols were doubling. Tension returned, and in the center of it all, doubt. Vaelra slammed her fist on the stone table. Jace passed the trial. The beast stands by him. That is our truth. Kars stood slowly from across the room. His voice was calm, but sharp. It may be your truth, my lady, but is it the people's? He turned to the others. Let the human prove his strength in the old way. Let him face a duel, not with blades, but with words, action, and choice. Vaelra narrowed her eyes. You want to trap him? No. Kars smiled. I want to show the people who he truly is. That evening, Vaelra called Jace to the main hall. Corin walked beside him, as always. The fire torches burned low. Warriors lined the sides. Vaelra stood on the throne platform, her voice echoing. Jace of Earth, the council wishes to see your heart. They challenge you to speak to the people tomorrow. No weapons, no beast. Just you. Jace looked at her. And if they don't believe me, she paused, then you may be asked to leave or worse, face exile. Later, alone by the training field, Jace sat in silence. Corin sat beside him, tail curled like a sleeping dragon. I've faced armies, Jace whispered. But words, they're harder. Corin nudged him gently with his nose. Jace chuckled. What, you giving me a pep talk now? The beast blinked. That night, Kars crept into the kitchens, again. The poison was in his hand. But this time he didn't aim for Jace. He aimed for Coran's food. In the morning, the court filled with warriors, citizens, and elders. The arena floor was silent. Jace stood alone in the center. Vaelra stood beside, Kars watching from above. Jace took a deep breath and began. I came to offer peace, he said, not to change who you are, but to show you that strength can mean something more. He looked at the crowd. I stood before your beast. I slept beside him. He had 100 chances to kill me. He didn't. Murmurs rose. He didn't because someone taught him mercy. He turned toward Vaelra. You. Suddenly a loud cry echoed from outside the chamber. A young soldier ran in, breathless. The beast. Something's wrong. Jace ran. He found Corin behind the hall, lying down, breathing fast, eyes unfocused. No, Jace gasped. No, stay with me. Jira, a healer, arrived quickly. She scanned the beast. It's poison, recent, strong. Jace looked, toward the courtyard, toward the crowd, and he knew. Someone wanted Corin gone before the truth could win. He turned to Vaelra. If he dies, everything dies with him. She looked at the beast, weak, shivering, and her face turned hard as steel. Find the one who did this, she growled, and bring him to me in chains. The halls of Zarnak's warrior court had never been this silent. Even in times of war, voices shouted, blades clashed, but now, only one sound filled the stone chambers, Corin's labored breathing. The mighty beast lay in the healing chamber, his chest rising and falling slowly. His black scales had lost their shine. His claws twitched, weak and shaky. Beside him sat Jace, holding a damp cloth to cool Corin's burning skin. Jira, the healer, worked fast, mixing herbs, scanning vitals, whispering prayers to Old Desert. Spirits he's fighting, she said. But the poison was made for warriors like him. Jace's voice was low. Will he live? She didn't answer. Outside, Vaelra stood in the center of the court. Her eyes blazed with fury. Warriors surrounded her, waiting for command. Cars, she said coldly. Bring him. 2 guards dragged in General Cars, bound in energy cuffs. He did not struggle. You poisoned the beast, Vaelra said. Cars smirked. I saved our people from a pet that wears honor like stolen armor. He chose peace. He is a weapon, Cars spat. And the human, he weakens us. Vaelra raised her sword. You are no longer one of us. Cars laughed bitterly. Then strike me. Prove to your people that mercy has made you strong. She didn't swing. Instead, she turned to the crowd. Let the people decide. Jace stepped into the court. His voice was calm but sharp as any blade. Corin saved your children. He faced your desert. He stood in your court without chains. He pointed at Cars. And this man tried to kill him. Not because of danger, but because of fear. Whispers moved through the court. One warrior stepped forward. My sister was saved from wild beasts. Because Corin stood guard. Another added. My son touched his snout. He didn't flinch. One by one, the people spoke not in anger, not in doubt, but in truth. Vaelra looked at Cars, then at Jace, then at the doors of the healing chamber. Her voice rang out. Let the traitor be exiled. Let the beast be healed. And let peace be honored. Cars roared, but no one listened. He was dragged away, shouting until his voice disappeared down the stone halls. Jace returned to Corin's side. Jira looked up from her scans. He's stabilizing, she whispered, but he needs time. Jace sat, exhausted. Corin, he said softly, you're stronger than this poison. You're stronger than any of us. The beast's eyes opened, barely. But enough. 3 days passed, and on the 4th morning, as sunlight broke through the temple windows, Corin rose slowly to his feet. The court gathered outside to witness it. Children cheered, elders bowed, and Jace stood frozen. As Corin walked to him, weak but proud, and rested his head gently on the human's shoulder, even Vaelra could not hide the shimmer in her eyes. You were right, she said. He chose peace, even when others chose violence. Jace turned. Peace isn't weakness, it's the hardest thing a warrior can carry. That night, a celebration lit the skies above Zarnak 7 for the first time in a generation. Not for war, not for victory, but for trust, earned in sweat, scars, and blood. And as stars blinked above the desert, Jace stood beside Vaelra and Corin. Warrior, a human, and a beast no longer feared, but deep beyond the dunes on another planet. A new danger stirred. They had seen the broadcast, heard the name Corin, and feared what he represented, because if a beast could choose peace, Then their weapons had no excuses left. The story of Koran, the beast who chose peace, spread faster than anyone expected. It traveled through starports and colonies, through pirate radios and soldier rumors. Across desert planets, city stations, and warships, people began to whisper, "Have you heard? The beast didn't kill the human. It protected him." On Zarnak 7, peace grew like a small tree in dry soil, fragile but alive. Jace, Vaelra, and Koran now walked side by side. The people bowed to all three, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as symbols. The warrior code was being rewritten. Some called it strength. Some called it surrender. Far away, in the high tower of the Galactic Banner Council, 13 voices debated. These were the leaders of star systems, presidents, admirals, and kings. One slammed his fist on the table. "A wild beast obeying a human? It's a trick." Another shook her head. "It's proof. What if the monsters we fight could be taught?" A third whispered, "What if they teach us?" But not everyone liked the idea of peace through understanding. In the shadows, a faction of warmongers met in secret. They feared Koran not because he was deadly, but because he had stopped being deadly by choice. Back on Zarnak 7, Jace sat with Koran in the temple courtyard. Children played nearby. The scent of roasted fruit filled the air. "I never thought I'd see this," Jace said softly. "You being the reason a galaxy pauses." Koran let out a quiet sound. Not a growl, but almost like a deep breath of pride. Vaelra joined them. She wore her old armor, polished and full of meaning. "They're sending envoys," she said. "From Earth, from the Assembly, even from our oldest enemies." Jace smiled. "They want to see the impossible with their own eyes, but not everyone came with good hearts." That night, a sleek black ship landed on the far edge of the Zarnak Plains. It bore no flag, no identity. Inside were mercenaries, paid by those who feared what Koran represented. Remove the beast, remove the symbol, keep the war machine turning. The next morning, the first envoy ship arrived from Earth. A woman stepped out, calm, sharp-eyed, wearing a silver uniform. She introduced herself as Commander Elra Lynn. "I've been ordered to observe, and to decide if this peace is real," she said. She was polite, but cold. Koran stood before her. She looked into his eyes. He looked back, unblinking. "No chains," she said. "No need," Jace replied. She said nothing. That evening, during a peace meal under the stars, Koran suddenly turned his head toward the hills. He sniffed the wind, growled. Seconds later, boom! An explosion lit up the sky above the temple. Screams echoed. Lights shattered. Enemy drones dropped from the air, silent and deadly. Vaelra leaped into action. "Ambush! Shields up!" Jace grabbed a child and pulled them to safety. But the main target was clear: Koran. A dart flew toward the beast. Fast, poison-tipped, but Koran moved quicker, knocking it aside with one massive claw. Then he stood tall, eyes glowing, not with rage, but purpose. The attackers didn't expect this. They didn't expect the beast to fight without killing. He disarmed drones with crushing, bites, smashed machines with his tail, and guarded the injured with his own body. When the dust settled, 3 attackers were captured. One was dead. The others had vanished into the night. Jace turned to Commander Elra. "Do you believe now?" She looked at the ruins, at the children who had survived, at Koran bleeding but standing tall, and said, "I came here for truth. I found it." She sent a report that night. "The beast is not a threat. It is a protector. And if we choose war after this, it is not his fault, it is ours." Across the stars, her words echoed, and for the first time the Council of Banners passed a vote. Peace can begin with a beast, if it begins with trust. But deep in the shadows of another world, someone watched the report with angry eyes. He slammed his fist on the console. Then let them trust it, he growled, because next time we'll burn their trust to the ground. The temple was rebuilt. The smoke from the ambush had faded, but the memory of what Quran did, how he stood between warriors, protected the children and held back his true power, remained in every heart on Zarnak 7. And soon, it would reach the heart of the galaxy. The Galactic Peace Council called for a gathering, the first of its kind in 2 centuries. All member worlds were invited, even rival nations, even enemies. And at the center of it all, one name echoed in every invitation. The beast that chose peace. Jay stood before the mirror in his chamber, adjusting his plain black coat. No armor, no medals. He looked over his shoulder at Corin, who lay resting near the door, watching him with calm orange eyes. "You ready for this?" Jace asked. Corin let out a slow, deep breath. Not a growl, but not silence. Just steady. In the temple courtyard, Velra waited, dressed in ceremonial gold, robes once worn by kings, now worn by a warrior who had watched the future walk on 4 legs. "You'll speak for him?" she asked. Jace nodded. "Only if they listen." "They will," she said. "They fear him, and you don't fear anything you understand." They left that morning on a ship bearing no weapon systems, only truth. The Galactic Peace Assembly Hall was vast, made of glass and light, floating in orbit above the green world of Selenar. As Corin entered beside Jace and Velra, the room fell utterly silent. Thousands watched, in person, on screens, across every system. The beast walked with calm steps. No collar, no guards, just presence. The council chairwoman stepped forward. "Let this hearing begin. Speak, human." Jace looked around the hall. He saw old admirals, politicians, traitors. He saw fear in their eyes, doubt. He took a breath and began. "I came to Zarnak with nothing but words. I was met with teeth and claws, and yet—" He turned to Corin. This beast chose not to bite. He paused. Not because he couldn't, but because he didn't want to. Murmurs rippled. Jace continued. "We've spent centuries training ourselves to kill anything we don't understand. Corin showed me something better." He looked each council member in the eye. He was built for war, but he chose not to be a weapon. The chairwoman looked at Velra. "And you? You trained him?" Velra stepped forward. "I tried, but I did not change him." She looked at Corin, eyes proud. He changed himself. Suddenly a voice called out from the rear chamber. A general, grizzled, angry, stood. "What if he turns on us later? What if he fools you all?" Jace answered before anyone else could. "Then I'll be the one who pays the price." He placed his hand on Corin's back. "But I've walked beside him. I've slept under his guard. If we fear every being who has power, and we will never build peace, only cages." A long silence followed, then the chairwoman stood. "We must vote." Lights blinked across the hall. Green for yes, red for no. The lights glowed, one by one, and then all at once. Green. Motion passed, the chairwoman said. Corin is granted protected being status under the Galactic Peace Charter. Applause broke out, not loud, not wild, but real. Later, in the open gardens of Selenar, children from many worlds gathered around the beast. One held up a drawing. Corin standing over a tiny human holding a flag of peace. Another child asked softly, "Are you still dangerous?" Corin looked at the child, and then gently nudged the picture with his nose. The child smiled. Velra stood beside Jace as the stars began to shine above the garden. "Will he go back to Zarnak?" she asked. Jace looked at the children. "At the diplomats talking in peace, no," he said. "The galaxy needs him now." Corin stood tall, not as a pet, not as a beast, but as a beginning. Because peace had not come from words alone. It had come from choice. And the creature who made that choice changed the galaxy forever.